Hey, one person who's there with me for now. It's Sonia here. I'm back in my humble abode. I hope you enjoy my thumbnail. I'm just gonna wait, see if anybody else shows up. Oh, my light's burnt out. I'm just gonna hang out here for a couple minutes, till I see some peeps. I didn't want you to worry that we ended up in the quarantine hotel or something. I think my lens is blurry. Hi, I see two people. I'm just hanging out here waiting for some peeps to drop by. I had to give you guys an update, though. I couldn't just leave you hanging because I've been posting a lot. Hold on, excuse me 1 second. It might black out. It's because I'm going to try to clean the lens. Just give me 1 second. Hi, Jen. Nice to see you. Hold on. This thing is like, it's super blurry here. Hold on. Oh, I know. So professional quality live stream here. Oh, Gunnar, don't start talking with your friends online. I just went live. Okay, I'm just giving them an update. Okay. Just give me a few more minutes. Hey, thanks you guys. Why is it so like foggy? So, yeah, we made it home. Hi, Holly. Nice to see you. Oh, it was great being able to talk to you guys while I was on the trip. Seriously, I did miss home, and it was like bringing you guys with me was like bringing a little bit of home. I mean, it's fun to travel, but we were gone so long that after a while, it didn't feel like a vacation anymore. It felt like we had moved. And oh, there's so many things I want to tell you. Like part of the trip was to see if there was somewhere that we would want to move, you know? Hold on, let me see your comments. Hi, Nikki. Nice to see you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hi, Vincent. Was it hard to re-enter Canada? Yeah, I figured you guys would want to know. I also wanted to know what was I going to be facing. Now, listen, don't judge me. I know what my channel name is, but I did do the ArriveCan. I had my reasons for doing that. We all pick our battles. Actually, speaking of that, wait, I'm just trying to find like one place where it's sort of like half decent lighting in here. Things are kind of shifting in Canada right now. Pierre Poilievre got he became the leader of the Conservative Party with like landslide support. And a lot of his platform was based on, wanting to get rid of ArriveCan. Like, everyone else is saying, hey, we're moving. Sorry about the notifications. Well, we're out of the pandemic. I'm not saying that we are YouTube. I don't know what your guidelines are right now. I'm just saying what people are saying. A lot of countries have sort of moved on. The other day, apparently, Joe Biden said that we're not in a pandemic. Again, I'm not saying if we are or we aren't. I'm just telling you what people out there are saying. But a lot of people are kind of like, listen, we need to move beyond the acutely intense phase of all this and find a way to live with this. Some other people are saying it's still raging. We're still in the middle of a pandemic. But whatever it is, a lot of countries have dropped a lot of their, uh, you know, like restrictions and requirements. And Canada's not one of them. And the ArriveCan app has been very unpopular with not just with Canadians, but with everybody. And it's keeping people out of Canada. It's keeping the tourists out, even the tourists who qualify to come. They don't want to do that, especially Americans. We're on the border with a country that really values privacy, medical privacy, and they don't want to have to submit medical details to cross the border, so they're not coming. So our tourism industry is still kind of in the toilet. And also, a lot of people deal with Americans for trade, and they're saying that their businesses are down 60-70%. People who are just constantly dealing with, cross-border trade. It's just been brutal. The ArriveCan, if you go on the website, it says that it is to keep people safe, and it does talk about the COVID problems, but it also says that it's also part of an effort to modernize travel. Now, that's the truth. So apparently the efforts to modernize travel started way back in 2018 before the pandemic. And I've mentioned this many times, the KTDI project with Canada the Netherlands and the World Economic Forum. It's a project to digitalize travel, which would amazingly, get this, in case you don't know, it includes not only to get on and off the plane, but also for when you rent the hotel. Like your digital ID would be used for your travel, including your lodging. I mean, that's according to their website, KTDI, right? So the plan was to digitalize travel and, modernize travel, but and I know that the pandemic like gave that a big push, but it's extremely unpopular. People really want to get rid of it. Everybody just hates it for the most part. And Pierre Polyev, like a lot of his platform was on moving beyond this and getting rid of ArriveCan. That was a big part of it. He won by a landslide. And it's weird because at one point it seemed like, he was almost going to get into trouble. I remember this video he put out where he was like in his car. I don't remember what he was saying, but I was like, wow, they're going to come after him. He seemed like really like the underdog politically, but he's really moved up a lot. So after Trudeau saw how that worked out for Poilievre, all of a sudden he's changing his tune. It's, well, it's flexible and things are changing and we have can't remember the word he used exactly, but like a flexible approach. So he's making it sound like, oh, they're going to get rid of it. They're talking now in the Canadian papers, in the Star and some others, that they're seriously talking about scrapping ArriveCan. They're saying they're going to get rid of the vaccine requirement for foreign visitors. The current order in council expires September 30th, and that's where this travel stuff comes from. And apparently, it's probably not going to be renewed, which is amazing because that would mean that some of you, my American friends, can come up here to Canada, regardless of your medical intervention status. And it seems that they're going to also drop the ArriveCan. So it's looking like seeing Poilievre's success was a bit of a wake-up call for Trudeau. But, I think Trudeau's just a snake. And, I don't know who would believe him right now. I don't know who would trust him when he says anything about what they're going to do, what they're going to change. He talks the talk. He doesn't walk the walk. And sorry about that, guys. It's Telegram. I don't know how to make it be quiet. It's just impossible. And he'll just say whatever people want to hear. That's what he does. But in the end, to me, he's completely not to be trusted. That said, they'll probably follow through on getting rid of the ArriveCan. It's looking like it. So I was thinking, well, whatever, I'll just fill it out. And I'm not going to make a fuss at the airport about not wanting to fill in the ArriveCan. And I mean, I was really surprised. So first of all, when we got on the plane in London, I was like, okay, where's this ArriveCan stuff going to happen? We get to the check-in counter, and there's a guy who says, he's telling people you have to fill in the ArriveCan. And I'm like, oh, okay, here it is. They're gonna scan it. This is where we're gonna get ArriveCan. They're checking other people's ArriveCan. Then they see our passports are Canadian, and they literally didn't even ask us for the QR code or the ArriveCan receipt. Nothing. They saw that we had Canadian passports. They did not ask if we had a negative test. They did not ask about ArriveCan. They didn't ask anything. We literally just walked onto that plane. So I was like, that's weird. I was expecting something else, right? I mean, it does say that, people who haven't done it will not be, denied boarding, but they literally didn't even check. Then the flight was fine. We came in, and I was expecting there's going to be like scanning of the ArriveCan. There's going to be, like asking about your tests or proving your status or something, right? We get off, and after we got off, thanks you guys. Thanks for the welcome home. I appreciate it. They divide into like people who are going further and people who are landing here, so we're in the landing here thing. We get to the end of that, and just before you go down to where the customs are, then they ask for ArriveCan. And I was like, okay. So here, this is where they do it. And I was ready, and people had it on papers, and other people had it on the app. I never did it on my phone. I didn't. I did download the app on my phone, but I never like registered it on my phone or filled it in on my phone or anything. I just did it on a laptop. And then I took a screenshot of the receipt. That was it. Because I just didn't want to deal with it on a small screen. I also just didn't want it like on my phone registered to me. What's ArriveCan? Where have you been? What country do you live in? I'm just curious. Serious question though. What country are you in? ArriveCan, normally when you travel, you just need your passport if you're going to your country that you live in. Or you need a passport to get into another country, or possibly a visa. Well, Canada added another layer, which was an ArriveCan app that you're supposed to download onto your phone, and it asks you about your travel, but it also asks you about your vaccination history. And if you're not vaccinated, you can't come in the country, basically, unless you're Canadian. And in that case, you're supposed to provide a negative test. But like they say, they're not going to not let you in, but you might get fined if you don't have the test. So it's just this app that everybody hates, basically, that Trudeau is now it's sounding like they're going to not renew this order in council to keep this stuff like at the end of September. That's what it's looking like. Could be wrong. I should have stayed in Europe for a couple more weeks. But actually, no, because I couldn't. Yeah, it checks your vaccination status. Yeah. You have to upload your proof of vaccination, but you don't have to upload your proof of a negative test. I figure, they're going to ask you about it when you get to the airport. If you don't upload your vaccination status, or like, for example, here's another thing that people don't realize. In Quebec, I don't know how it was in the rest of Canada, but in Quebec, if you had COVID, you only needed to take one dose of vaccine to have the vaccine passport locally. So during that whole winter where the people were locked out, anyone who had already recovered only needed to get one dose. And then life pretty much went on as normal. And including that you don't lose your job here. Like, let's say you worked in healthcare or whatever. You could get by here with one dose. However, once you leave the country to come back, your government considers you not vaccinated or not fully vaccinated. So then in that case, you also have to provide a negative test. Anyway, so we got to the airport here in Montreal, and they asked about ArriveCan, and I pulled it out, but like she literally didn't scan it. First of all, they didn't scan anything for anyone. And she didn't even really look at it. Like, I just literally just like flashed, like just pulled it out, and she was like, waved me through immediately. She didn't look at the names on it. She didn't scan it. She didn't check the date, the flight, nothing. So I was like, well, that's not very thorough. I'm surprised, I thought it was going to be, for sure they were going to scan it with something. I mean, this is the airport. You're making all these people fill in this ArriveCan, and you're not even scanning it. I mean, to me, it doesn't pop up automatically on their screens. It's impossible because I did not have the ArriveCan app on my phone. I had done it on a laptop while I was in England, and I just had a screenshot, which I had emailed to myself since I didn't have a printer. I had a screenshot saved as an image on my phone. That's it. There was no way that anything pops up. It's impossible. And there were people who were showing up with printed papers, and they were just like, the person would like go like this, basically, just like, and the person would like wave them through. It's like, yeah, here it is. Okay, go. That was it. No scanning, nothing. I mean, anyway, it just doesn't seem kind of weird. Like, yeah, so they don't care. Yeah, well, it seems like the airports really don't care, and they really don't feel like doing this. But you'd think, like, if it's law and everybody has to do it and it's for security, why aren't they scanning it? I mean, if it was the plague and you had to be vaccinated for the plague, you'd think they'd be scanning it. But anyway, I was really, really surprised. And I was still like, wait, Yeah, right, Ruth, exactly. Like, yeah, what's going on here? I don't know. No, I hear you guys, GTO. Hi. Yeah, I mean, it's an order in council, but considering all the fuss, I was expecting it was going to be a little more serious than that. I could not believe, like, they didn't even check in on the way out of London. They never asked for proof of test. They never checked our vaccination status. Nada. We get to Montreal and nothing. Just held it up. Hi, Reg. Yeah, I figured I'd give you an update so you wouldn't think that we got stuck in London even longer. Yeah, Biden claimed it's over. I heard that. Well, but Biden says a lot of things, right? So who knows? I mean, that's what he says. But he fumbles a lot and like he bungles and says a lot of silly things. So I don't think anyone's going to take it too seriously. Probably it reflects what he really believes, though, and like what people in high places are saying. I mean, he is the president after all. I don't think he'd be saying that for absolutely no reason, unless, he's severely deteriorated and he doesn't know what's going on anymore, which is also possible. But anyway, after they waved us through, and I was like, what? That's it? I thought, okay, they're going to check. There's going to be like health screening people. There's going to be something. We go down, we have to fill in our declaration on a com- computer, push in your answers. It gives you a receipt. Then there's another guy that checks, and I'm like, yeah, no, I didn't buy that much stuff. I'm not over the limit. No, I don't have any meat. He's like, okay, go. I'm like, okay, where's it? When's the ArriveCan stuff happening? So then I go to get our luggage. They made Gunner put his wait, I just saw something. One of my videos was posted on Natural News. Oh, no kidding. Oh, the China lockdown. Yeah, that's still going on. China is like still like sort of behind the times in a way. I mean, they have certainly a different approach. Let's be careful how I phrase that. Wouldn't want to offend. But anyway, so yeah, like he waves us through. We get the luggage. They put Gunner's backpack, which had been a carry-on the way back. Now it was an oversized luggage. So we waited for that. We got the luggage. And I'm like, okay, when's the ArriveCan stuff happening? Then the last checkpoint. I'm like, okay, now it's gonna happen. The very last one before you're really out. And no, I just walked through there, handed the guy a paper. Nobody scanned the ArriveCan app the entire time. Nobody asked for proof of anything, negative test, nothing. There was no public health people. I was really surprised. And my friend says that her landlord got on a flight in Rome without the ArriveCan and got off in Canada at Montreal airport and just walked out. They said something about ArriveCan. He was like, nah, he just went out. Now, I heard that story, but I've also heard stories of other people who were given a paper that they didn't fill anything out. Like the border people just like gave them this thing checked off, refused ArriveCan. And the fine is $5,000 to $750,000 and or 6 months in jail or something like that. And there are people who've been served several of these papers and apparently have fines up to like $20,000. I personally don't know anyone who's actually had to pay it, but I mean, people are getting fined. But who knows? Like, what does it mean? Like, are they gonna end up like Chris Sky? I mean, who knows? Like, what the consequence is down the road? I really don't know. To me, it just didn't seem like it was. Well, that's what they say. They're thrown out. I'm not really sure though. I can't say. I haven't gotten enough like information. I mean, I hear a lot of different things. I haven't actually heard of one person saying I got fined for not doing ArriveCan and I went to court. Like there's people that were fined in 2021 and they're still waiting to go to court. So I don't know. But I mean, me. I wasn't going to be a person who was going to refuse it. It was just not something that I just was like, yeah, whatever, I'll fill it in. I mean, we're at the end of this. I think that what they wanted us to do was not travel. That was the thing. And I think going forward also, reductions in travel. Hi, Susan. Oh yeah? Huh. So like I got the feeling that they really didn't want us to go anywhere, and I thought, well, I'm going to take this opportunity. It was actually really like a blessing. Everything just sort of worked together, worked really well for me to go do this trip. Now, it really felt like it was blessed. I told you guys before the pastor had said like he had a word of knowledge from your prophecy, and he said freedom, and it was like God was unrolling a scroll, and it sure is what happened. It was like a scroll that kept unrolling and unrolling, you know. Um Building castles. Okay, well, let me know how it goes. Like when you do that, like please do like keep me updated. Like tell me how it turns out. So anyhow, it felt like it was meant to happen. And I've been saying like it was like my retirement travel that I was doing now instead of waiting till I was like 60 or 65. I realized that like you guys, I have a hypermobility disorder like with my joints. You guys know I've complained of like my horrible joint pain. It's been sometimes really, really bad. Like it's sent me to the ER once because the pain was so like through the roof. I was like going into shock. I was like getting cold and shaking. Like it was really bad. And so I just thought, I'm not going to wait till I get older because you can't really do backpacking when you have those problems. And actually, by the time we got to Rome, I realized that I'm not able to carry a backpack. I just couldn't. Like, it just caused so much pain in my spine and my joints that I had to get myself a little pull luggage. Um, and all the walking, it was hard. Like, I mean, I didn't talk about this in the videos that I did, but um, yeah, it was like I was in pain like a lot, like all the time, and I had to like take a lot of breaks. And anyway, it was yeah, Ehlers-Danlos. Well, I mean, they said it was hypermobility syndrome because I don't have internal organ involvement, but then they discovered that my stomach is like prolapsed through my diaphragm. So I don't know, maybe I have like a mild form of Ehlers-Danlos, but whatever it is, I have pain, that's for sure. So the last 3 days in London, Um, it was like I was in a lot of pain, but I was kind of running on adrenaline and I was sort of pushing through it. But then like when I got back, oh my God, the pain was so bad when I got back. Lucky for me, it was only bad in Rome, and I went and got a massage from that little Thai girl who like sat on me and made me feel like I was Hunter Biden. I was like, this must be what it's like, like you got a little Thai kitty cat like sitting on top of you. You just need a big bowl of Peruvian marching powder and like you're set, right? Um, it was bad in Rome. We had to take like a whole day off. But yeah, like I came back and I just had like the most insane pain, and like I kind of didn't even I was like, no, I can't go live because like I'm in horrible pain. But it's crazy because now that I'm talking to you, I feel so much better. Like just seeing you guys in the chat. Hi, mermaid. But it was just like my hips, you guys. It's my hips. They're burning like, oh my God. So bad. And I don't take like Tylenol or Advil. Maybe I should take a Tylenol, but I was like, oh, I'll power through it. I got my C60. I didn't take it while I was there. I've told you guys before, like, it seems to help me with my pain because when I take it every day, it gets better. And then when I stop, after a while, it comes back. Now, I don't know if it's because of that or it's coincidence, but I'm starting again to take it. You too, Ruth. Hey. Yeah. Oh, but I just can imagine like what my hips are going to be like in 10 or 15 years. And it's a genetic thing. It's connective tissue. I've actually seen like some slides of like what the connective tissue looks like. And it's like it's not woven right. It's like the pattern of the weave of the tissue is all messed up. So you can't fix it. Yeah, you can take hot baths and take it easy and that kind of thing. You can't fix it, though. It's genetic. You do too, Jen? Yeah. It's probably not that rare. I mean, I mean, real Ehlers-Danlos is much worse, but I mean, this is just really painful, let's just say. But anyway, like I got my traveling done, and I'm really glad I did it. I almost can't believe because it was my dream for such a long time to do this with Gunner, and it's like everything lined up. I mean, I paid my credit cards down because I didn't go anywhere for like the last, what, 3 years? And I managed to get someone to take care of Aaron, and that worked out really well. And I found my aunt. I hadn't seen her in 40 years. So it was like everything just kind of lined up, you know? It was a bucket list, but I feel like I'm done. I'm done traveling, at least for now. Like maybe for quite a while. And now my hips, it's just murder. Like, oh my God, my hip is, it's so bad. It's like burning so bad. It's not hurting right now the way I'm sitting, but it was just like, like the kind of pain that can keep you up at night. So, I thought, oh, I better not go on camera, but I didn't want you to think something happened. I didn't know if I had a place to go back to. Oh, well, no, I knew I was going to get back in here. I didn't think they were going to not let me in. I thought they'd get rid of ArriveCan actually. I was surprised it was still there. I was like, yeah, we're going to go in August and then they'll probably get rid of ArriveCan and then actually no. But yeah, the trip went well. The apartment. Oh yeah, like as I left, my landlord was trying to evict me, the bastard. For no reason. And then the day of the hearing, he dropped the case. I had to hire a lawyer for $1,000 or like $1,200. I paid her to make sure that I didn't get evicted, even though I didn't do anything wrong. But I wasn't here, so I couldn't plead my own case. I paid that lawyer over $1,000. And then the day of the hearing, I think she actually went down to the rental court. And then she gets there and she finds out they dropped it. Like they dropped it that day just to make sure my lawyer would show up and I'd have to pay her. But like whatever, you know? It's only money, right? It would be worse if I lost my home. So I still have my place and I'm suing him to pay me back. Well, will I get reimbursed? Not the lawyer fees from what I hear, but I'm suing him to refund me like because I gave him all the money he asked for before I left. And I think I should get it back, you know? Any plans to go with Aaron in the future? Well, you know, as I was going through Europe, I was kind of thinking like, could I move here? Like, you guys, I have British citizenship. I'm British. I really do. And so Gunnar can get British citizenship as well. And I was thinking like maybe we could move to Europe. And you guys know I have a background in teaching, I have a degree and all this stuff. So, I mean, I could probably get work out there. I have one degree in art education, but I also have a teaching certificate in teaching English. But it's kind of a long story because I switched into like a 4-year program and I didn't do the practicum for the 1 year. But I'm pretty sure I could go over to the university and be like, look, can you just give me the paper because I don't have it and I need it. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if I needed to like find work in Europe, I could get it. And I went to all these places and in the end, the place I felt the most at home in, I loved Ireland. The people were so cool. But I felt really at home in England. It was so crazy. Like and I mentioned this when we were over there, that it was like I was on a wavelength with people. Um, Thanks, MC. Um, I have this like offbeat sense of humor, and over here people don't always get it. Like I'll give you an example. Okay, I was telling Aaron about this last night. I said, if I went to the store and I was looking for lemon yogurt and they didn't have it, and I made a joke to the person next to me and I was like, "Oh, no lemon yogurt? Oh my God, I think I'm just gonna go home and hole up. I don't want to talk to anyone. And I'm triggered and I just need to go home and recover from this." You know, like some silly thing like that, right? Like if I made a big thing about like there's no lemon yogurt and I just want to crawl into my bed. I'm just gonna hide under the covers for the next 3 days. Don't bother me. I'm just gonna watch Netflix and order pizza. The person would be like, yeah, well, I'm sure they'll have some in a couple of days. Like they wouldn't get it. Whereas in England, they would get it and they would like add to the joke, you know? So that made a big difference because I'm chronically like that. I'm always joking and I'm always making these kind of jokes. And over here, people just don't get it. They just think you're weird, you know? But over there, it was like everyone was like me. I could talk to people and they didn't think I was weird. It was amazing, you know? Like the Indians, I've told you about my neighbors from India. I get along really well with them. Like we tend to be on a really good wavelength. There's something about their culture that it just jives with me. But then again, I'm not actually Indian. But in England, it was like I felt like I was with my people, which is weird because yeah, I have British citizenship, but I'm not like British, ancestry. I'm, German and Polish Jewish, but there was just something about the way they were, like just the way that they had conversations and over here people are always like, "Oh, you're oversharing." But over there, like they do that too. They'll talk about stuff. They'll tell you about their life and they'll tell you what they think and they'll tell you what happened that day and it's not I mean, it's not oversharing would be like, "Oh, let me tell you about my bad relationship and like or my eating disorder." And like that's to me that's oversharing. Like but talking about like I don't know your opinions or some experiences you've had or whatever stuff that's not it's not that heavy, it's not like you're turning them into your therapist. To me it's not oversharing, it's just having a conversation, and it doesn't mean that you have bad boundaries and they're your best friend now. But over there people like I met these guys Nigel and Dickie when we were waiting for the procession for the queen and we had conversations and we were talking about our countries and problems with them and you know, like we had very easily had conversation with them. And the thing is like it's different here in Canada. Like you don't talk to people you don't know, basically. If you do, it's either because you want to sleep with them or you have bad boundaries or you're trying to rip them off or something like that. But in England, people were really friendly and chatty with each other, and even in the grocery store at night. It was like a cocktail party. Like people would come in and they'd be talking and chatting and the cashier would be making quips and what are you saying? Yeah, British people seem to not be afraid of less than small talk or more than small talk. Yeah, that was it. It was like go beyond small talk and a lot of joking. And I was like, I can't believe this. It's like a nonstop cocktail party. You know what I mean? It was like, it was good. I was totally enjoying it, you know? Um, So I felt like, oh man, I think I could live here. I mean, like I wouldn't want to live in London because it's nice to visit, but it was so big. It was like overwhelming. I felt like I was in a futuristic city from like, a Marvel comic book or something. Like it was so huge and it's such a mix of like old and ultra modern. Yeah, like in the States too, like if you're too friendly with people and you talk too much and you're like, "Oh, well, we just came back from Europe and we did this and blah blah blah." And then, "Oh my God, but my hip," like things like that, right? Like I could talk like that with my Indian neighbors, no problem. I think like in England, people would talk like that. Um, but in Canada, no. It's like, "Oh, can you believe the weather?" Yeah, it's so much weather today. I know, and we had a lot last week too. I mean, it's just I don't know what people talk about. I just don't fit in here. I'm in the wrong place. If people ever say to me like go back to your country, I'll be like, yeah, maybe. I think it's not a bad idea. I really liked England. I liked the people, you know. And I met so many cool people, and it was extra cool when I would meet someone who spoke French, because I'm from a French speaking place. Now, I'll tell you guys, the more I was in Europe, the more I was like overly aware of how I feel here as an English speaking Canadian, not British Canadian. Well, yes, British, but like they call me an Anglo here, but I'm not actually a British person, as in, well, you guys know what I'm trying to say, right? European but Anglophone, but Gunner's playing with his friend. But I mean, I'm bilingual and I grew up here. I was born in Quebec. I went to French school. I'm perfectly bilingual. But it's like I'm not good enough, you know? I really feel that way. I really feel like they see me as like an immigrant. I'm not really one of them, and I never will be, which is why I like living in the neighborhoods with the immigrants because well, we're all in the same boat, right? I know that I've heard this from Italians also. I remember an Italian girl that I went to school with saying she got the same treatment. She was in a French school and She felt like she wasn't treated as well because she was Italian. I've had very rude experiences here. I mean, I'm not saying all French people are like this, obviously not, but there is some of this, like that you're not a Québécois de souche or you're not pure laine. Like they use these words, pure wool, you know, and post vacation fatigue. Oh, you're late to the party. No. No, I just have like really bad hip pain lately. But I always feel that way here. Like the fact that I'm not really like a Québécois de souche, it's like I feel a bit like second class or something, and I know that, and I just sort of accept it, and I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not a French Canadian, so I still love Quebec. I still love my city, and I still want to live here. And I still love the French Canadian language, and I'm happy that Quebec speaks French. Like I'm not, but I do feel funny about it. Like one time I addressed a bus driver in English, and he closed the door on me and Aaron. Oh, hey, thank you so much, Mermaid. Thanks. I hope my hips get better soon too. They probably will. It just kind of flares up and down. Hi, Jeff. You hear me too, eh? Jeff, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I mean, that bus driver, I was there with Aaron with his wheelchair, and we needed the ramp, and I addressed him in English. Excuse me. He said to me, Au Québec, on parle français, and he shut the door in my freaking face. On a person with a wheelchair. He literally refused to put Aaron on the bus because I spoke to him in English. You know? It's all divided along language lines here. And I had other experiences where I was refused a job and I was told to my face, it's because you have the wrong accent. Like they only want, you know, Québécois de souche. They don't want people like me. Um, so I get that feeling here. I It was kind of cool to be in England where I didn't feel like that. It was different. And even though, yes, as a Canadian, you had no idea Canadians acted that way. That's Quebec. I mean, this is the land of Bill 96. Is it not illegal to discriminate? Yeah, probably we could have said something about that driver, like we could have made a report. Well, is it illegal to discriminate? Actually, no, it's legal. Like we have a law that people are not allowed to, two Anglophones are not allowed to speak English to each other at work, even if they're the only people there. Yeah, my accent is okay. I speak French. I went to French school. I was educated in French. Like, if it's a company with 25 or more people, people have to speak French to each other at work. So let's say you have like an office pool and it's a bunch of like Anglophone secretaries or allophones. Maybe they're whatever language they speak, and they're in the coffee room, like on a break. They're not supposed to speak English to each other. I mean, I told people about that in Europe, and they're like, well, that's crazy. I was like, yeah, if you have two doctors operating and they're both Anglophones, they have to speak to each other in French. I mean, do you want to speak French or do you want to have a successful surgery? It's kind of risky, I think. It's gone further. Like I'm totally in favor of protecting the Quebecois French language. I think it's precious, but it's like it's gone really overboard, and it makes people feel unwelcome. Plus the fact that if you wear a hijab to your job as a school teacher, you've been working there for 20 years, and you wear a hijab, they'll fire you. It's extreme, and like people are losing perspective. Fined you? You got fined? They have language police here. And the language police will go around to restaurants and tell them they can't use the word pasta in an Italian restaurant because pasta is Italian. Like it's not only you can't speak English, like you can't speak any other language. In school, when the kids go to school, the French schools, they're not allowed to speak their language in the courtyard. Like if they speak Farsi or Creole or whatever, they're not allowed to speak their language in the courtyard. They have to speak French, even on break. Um, it seems a bit excessive. It's hard to find the balance between protecting French versus becoming like a total linguistic dictatorship. But yeah, language police. So they complained that the menu said pasta, but like that's what it's called. It's an Italian restaurant, you know. There was one time where a pet store got fined because the parrot spoke English. I mean, it's a parrot, you know. Do they treat tourists this way? I don't think so. And like people are bilingual in Montreal, you know. Take what to a higher court? You'll have to clarify. I didn't catch that. Can you talk to yourself in your own language? I know. Well, not if you're in a company of 25 people or more. You can at home or in a small company, but yeah, I guess if you have Tourette's and you work in like a big company, like better make sure it comes out in French, you know, or you get a fine. That's the question. But yeah, like it was kind of cool to be in a place where like people spoke English and I didn't feel like I was second class, you know. I mean, I don't know. Look, Jeff says he feels that way too, so I guess it's not just me. So there was that, plus the sense of humor and just like the general culture. I was surprised. I thought that British people were gonna be like stuffy. I mean, I guess going on what I'd seen on British TV and like my parents, I thought they were gonna be like super prim and proper, but they weren't. They were wild. They were so much fun. Yeah, I explained what happened about the vaccine passport. Well, when I tried to check in online, um, like they asked a series of questions and it said you're not eligible to travel. I wasn't able to check in online, but then when I went to the airport, the airline just checked me in. They did it for me because the mandates are dropped. You're not supposed to have to upload. I mean, they're suspended. You don't have to upload proof, but the government still asks for it. But then you go to the airline and they'll just do it for you, and they'll just be like, yeah, you're fine, just go. Have you seen the two Montreal comedians doing language police episodes on YouTube? Oh my God, no, but I'd love to see that. Hi, Robbie, by the way. I'd love to see that. I mean, it's a source of a lot of great humor, I'm sure. What happens if you don't pay the fine? What fine? ArriveCan? I don't know. I no, like the people who've gotten fines, they all say they haven't been to court yet. What happens if you don't pay the fine? I don't know. You get another fine, or they take you to jail or something. It depends how far you're willing to take it. Like some people are really like refusing. Um, yeah, England was pretty cool. I kind of felt like, yeah, maybe I could live here. But you know, honestly, like when I went to Europe, fines for what? I think he's talking about ArriveCan. When I went to Europe and people would say to me like, "Oh, I'd love to go to Canada." My reaction was like, "No, you don't want to go to Canada." I was just so sick of Canada when I went. I was just like, "Get me out of here. I'm so sick of Trudeau." I mean, I love Canada, but I I was really sick and tired of the politics here, like so badly that like I couldn't help myself. Like I was trying to not overshare. I'm terrible though. I'm terrible at it. I was trying to keep it like simple and polite. People would be like, "Oh, I want to go to Canada one day." And I was like, "No, you don't. Don't go to Canada. It sucks." And they're like, "Why?" And I'm like, "Oh, because of Trudeau." You know, we don't know what's coming, right? Like he seems to have like lost his bearings and it's a free for all now. And you feel the same way, Ruth? Yeah, I mean, I love Canada. It's my country, and I love Montreal, and I love Quebec. And I've always been very proud of Quebec and Montreal and said how cool it was here, but not with François Legault. It's been different, you know? Um, my hand is starting to hurt from holding this phone up. Sorry for the shaky camera, too. But yeah, I was telling people, no, it was terrible. And they locked people out of the grocery store, and it was really overboard. It was so crazy. Um, but after a while, I started to miss home. I did. I really did start to miss home. Europe, like it's beautiful, but it is really different. I mean, like I said before, the cities are so big and it's just so massive. And when I got home, it was just kind of like, yeah, it's not like so exciting here, but at least I know where everything is. And it's not so huge. Like I don't have to walk so much because I walked too much in England and like now I'm in horrible pain. Um, Legault, oh my God, you guys, we're about, wait, did Anita leave a book at your place and say Alcoholics Anonymous in the back bookcase? Yeah, that must have been Anita's book. But anyway, no, we didn't visit Scotland. Then I want to tell you what happened with François Legault. Okay, so we're having an election here. It's supposed to be October 3rd. Wait, there's got to be something I can do about this camera. My wrist is killing me. Sorry about the bad reflection from the light and the mess. François Legault. Okay, so we're having an election. Now, somehow, this freaking guy has, like, according to the polls, still has like 40% of the vote. I don't know how dumb people can be, but apparently they can because they still want to have him in power after he jerked us around. Like, listen, I've had some bad relationships before. I've had some bad boyfriends, and I know when somebody's dicking me around. And that's exactly what it felt like with Legault and with Trudeau. It felt like a really bad boyfriend, you know? Controlling, gaslighting, moving the goalposts, blaming you for everything, making you promises, and then saying like you failed and no, you don't get. And I mean, anyway, it's just no good. And I mean, it's just manipulating people clearly. He's got the support of people outside of Montreal. Montreal has about half the population of Quebec. And Montreal tends to not vote CAQ, tends to vote liberal, but we don't have as many ridings because the way that the system works is it goes by riding. So it's not popular vote. So you could have a riding that has a lot more people in it, but it doesn't mean it has proportionally more seats. It might have two instead of one, or might have three, but not that many. So there are a lot of ridings out in the country, very few people, but they get seats. And those are the only people he needs. He doesn't need to get 50 or 60%. He just needs like 35, maybe even 30, you know? He just needs to get those little ridings because we have what, like five parties, and there's a lot of vote splitting going on. So before, the Liberals used to usually win the elections here in Quebec, but they fell out of favor recently. And the Quebec Conservative Party, which was like non-existent before, has just been skyrocketing, led by Éric Duhem. Conservatives have been just like having a big meteoric rise for them, but I mean, they went from like not existing to having 18% of the vote. The thing is that the 18% is a lot of people who would have voted liberal before who are now going to vote conservative. Um, but it's also kind of the vote is split between liberal and conservative. And then you have Québec Solidaire and Parti Québécois, who's getting like no votes right now. Um, but the problem is because of the vote splitting, there are ridings where maybe if enough people were voting either conservative or liberal, then liberal or conservative would take the riding. Anything's better than CAQ. But because of vote splitting, it gives the CAQ even more of an advantage. And that's really scary, you know? So in a way, not that I would have voted liberal, uh, but the fact that the liberals are bleeding support to the conservatives is actually just weakening the opposition. Apparently, this was also a problem like way back in the day, like in the early days of Canada. And what happened back then, this was when they were trying to distance themselves from the monarchy and like unite the provinces and have what do they call it? An accountable government or whatever. What they did was the opposition parties created a coalition, you know? And if, like, let's say the liberals and conservatives, or the liberals and the Québec Solidaire, or the conservatives and Québec Solidaire, if they teamed up and formed like a coalition, and there were fewer opposition parties, um, but the remaining parties would get more votes, then that might be a better way to defeat Legault. Because as it stands right now, I can't believe it. This guy's probably going to get another 4 years because of all those votes from the région, from those little ridings. And I mean, I would hate to see any ridings in Montreal go to CAQ because of vote splitting, but that's what's happening right now. You doubt Legault will win? Well, these are his polls, and maybe the polls are wrong. But it looks like, yes, less people would maybe want to vote for CAQ, but it's so split between liberals and conservatives that there's not like a really solid opposition, unfortunately. I know, it's really scary. I can't believe with Legault. I would hope he won't win, but incredibly, it's looking like he might. So anyhow, like when people ask me about, okay, bye Angel, nice to see you. Um, People ask me about wanting to visit Canada. I was like, no, don't come now. I mean, I can't believe what's happening to Canada. It sucks so much. So a lot of people, a lot. Why don't I like Trudeau? Well, he's total c'est un crosseur, as we would say here. He's like total double crosser. You voted one thing in, and then he completely changed and like does something totally different. Um, No, he just says whatever. Like he's just dishonest. He just says whatever people want. You know what? You know what it comes down to with Trudeau? A good leader brings people together, especially in a crisis. A good, strong leader brings the population together. That's what a good leader does. Trudeau did the opposite. He intentionally divided the population to try to get people to get on that one side that would then vote for me. Did that to get votes. He's so division. He tried to pit us against one another. A house divided against itself cannot stand. And Trudeau divided the house. You know, he tried to divide people. To me, that is a bad leader. There's no way to come back from that. And he still would do the same thing. And he'd just say whatever, he thinks people might want to hear to get votes back. But I mean, that's terrible, terrible leadership. Yeah, that was really bad. So that's what it comes down to. And like tons of people are, how long has he got to go? Well, he's secured his power until 2025 by basically bribing the NDP. Yeah, how is he not canceled for doing blackface too? That's another question. How did he even get to be prime minister in such a day and age where everyone is so woke? How do they reconcile the fact that they voted in a guy who went around with brown makeup on his face? It's kind of hard to understand. I can't wrap my head around it. How long has he got? He has secured himself till 2025 by bribing the NDP. So he created this confidence and supply agreement where he agrees to supply the NDP with something they want, which is, for example, dental care coverage. And in exchange, they promise not to vote him out on a vote of no confidence, which means there's no functional democracy because they've allowed themselves to be bribed into not booting him out. So, this is what happened to Boris Johnson. He was kicked out by vote of no confidence. Trudeau has done what he can to make sure that that doesn't happen to him. You know, but I think he's seeing now that the way things are going, the people have had enough and they're going to vote conservative next time because they don't want anything to do with liberals. And I think they're disgusted with the NDP also for doing what they did and allowing themselves to, undermine our democracy by basically taking a bribe. That was very uncool. So it's kind of scary to live in a country where you feel like there's no functional system. And in the parliament that they're just told to vote this way or vote that way according to their party. So there's never any real chance of, like, it's not functional because between the liberals and their supporting NDP, they'll just vote whatever the liberals want. And the conservatives, all they can do is make noise. Like all the opposition, the conservatives and the bloc can do is make a lot of noise, but their bills won't get passed, because the liberals and the NDP will just block it every time. So it's just like it's like a kangaroo court. I just got a fake message, fake text message saying, "Oh, money!" Right now, I'm gonna go log into the online bank account so I can get ripped off. But yeah, people would say they want to come to Canada, and I'd be like, nah, just don't even come now. It sucks. Anyway, I'm hoping that something will turn around. I mean, public is putting pressure right now. The trending hashtag on Twitter is Trudeau must go. Apparently, it's been like number one for 5 days in a row. And then Twitter tried to like hide it by like removing it from the top. They're trying to tell people, oh no, like everything's fine. This isn't happening, but it is happening. So it goes to show that a lot of people are really fed up with Trudeau. So I'm hoping things will change. And people say, "Oh, you're just gonna get another one, and it's gonna be just as bad, and it's just gonna be like it's gonna be like new boss, same as the old boss." But if you think about it, when oh, thank you, relaxing and soothing. Well, I hope so. I hope it doesn't continue in this direction. When Harper was in power, he started off doing great things like, giving child tax benefits and like helping families and things like that. But in the end, he wanted to privatize prison and have mandatory minimum sentences. Then Trudeau came in and that was all out the door. So it wasn't the same. The Trudeau was like the other extreme, extreme left. What part of UK did I visit? I went to Bath and Bovington for the day. I did a video about that. It was the Tank Museum and London. That was it. And Croatia was really, really beautiful, but it's so rocky, right? It's like you're inside a bowl and it's all these rocky mountains all around it. And to get from one town to the other, you have to go through these mountain ranges. And I'm like kind of a nervous driver and I have really bad night vision. And I realized afterwards that I don't think I could live in Croatia because I don't think I could deal with driving on those roads. We went to Dubrovnik and I didn't show you the video, right? I have tons of footage. Um, Wait, sorry, it's distracting with the comments because sometimes I just want to respond to them. But somebody just said, I always thought you were a conservative. Well, I tend to think of myself actually in the past, I would have described myself as more of a liberal, but I'm a libertarian, you know? I don't know about conservative. I think that I'm not really sure. I would say, somebody said to me, I'm what you call libertarian with a small L, you know? Maybe like a moderate libertarian, but definitely a libertarian. Number one, personal freedom, liberty, bodily autonomy, but I'm also in favor of social support, but within reason, not Trudeau style. Um, did I rent a car? No, I'm sure I would have died if I tried to drive in England. I could barely cross the freaking street. I could never wrap my head around how to cross the streets. I was so confused, like till the last day. I felt like I was dyslexic. I really understand. I think I understand now what dyslexic people feel like. It's like you just can't ever get it straight. That's what I felt like. Um, Let me just see your comments. Oh no, your building is going through renovation. That's awful. Sorry to hear that. It's happening to a lot of people. It's a terrible time to get renovicted. I hope that you get something good. I hope you don't get renovicted. Um, Let me see. Move to Alberta. I went to Alberta once, but it was just so cold. I don't know if I could handle Alberta. I was there in the middle of winter. Is Gunnar happy to be back home? Yes. But he missed too much school. I thought he was going to miss 5 days, but he ended up missing 10, and I got a registered letter from the school saying that I was if he missed any more school, I would be in violation of the Education Act or some horrible thing. And I'm sending them a notice back. I'm like, here, notice this. We got stuck there because we lost a passport, and here's the proof, and I'm not in violation. I wrote back, I counter offered, I said I disagree that it was without cause because half of those days were because of an emergency situation. So hopefully I don't think anything's really going to happen, but he missed a lot of school. Yeah. When you were working in Montreal, it was 95% English. Must have been the area you were in. I mean, yeah, well, Montreal, it has a lot of Anglophones, especially on the west side, not on the east side, though. Oh, hi, Angel. You're back. I'm trying to think if there was something else I wanted to cover with you guys. If you have any more questions for me, go ahead. So, well, when I got back to Montreal, I realized that actually Montreal is a beautiful city. You know, when you come in, when you're on the plane, you're coming into Montreal, it's like it's all trees. It looks like a city in a forest, so that's pretty cool. And we do have some nice buildings here, and it's not bad. It's not a bad city. I always loved Montreal a lot. It's just the politics. Well, that's the thing, relaxing and soothing. That's what I was trying to say. Like, would I live in any of the places I traveled to? I really loved Ireland. The people were so cool. I loved how rowdy they were, but like in a good way. I loved how rowdy the British people were. The British people were amazing. And they have a lot of really cool people there who are not from England, but like they had really cool like African immigrants I got to speak French with. They were great. I was always actually really happy to run into Africans. They come from like Senegal and stuff and they speak French. And I was like, ah, vous parlez français? And then we'd like start speaking French together. And I told them I was from Quebec. And I was like, yeah, in Quebec, I'm not French enough, but actually, I'm really happy to speak French with you. It was like, it reminded me of home. It was cool, you know? Um, yeah, Britain was great. London was beautiful. France, it was like, oh, how did Aaron do when we were away? He had like two people taking care of him actually, so it was fine. I never thought I could organize that, but it happened. I mean, it must have been like really lucky because we were able to get a nurse from the clinic, which these days it's like so hard to get anything. And we actually had a nurse who came to check on him twice a week. Plus, he had somebody else looking after him for like just general stuff and helping him with things. And so it worked, and she did a great job. He was so happy with her. He said like she did a fantastic job. So that was good. Um, France, it was like the attitude was different. It was like everybody in France seemed like they were a little impatient, you know. It's like they were about to say "oh la la" any minute. That was the impression that I got. Wait, what's this? You're being Sonia, you're being dishonest? What? It's completely lax regarding language and Montreal is in turbo acceleration, anglicization. Well, look, Thomas, like I get that too. And like I do not want to see anything happen to French Canadian language. But I mean, making Anglophone doctors speak English to each other doesn't seem like the solution to me. I think there's, it's not, I mean, outside of Montreal, though, it is French. I don't think there's any risk to anything outside of Montreal losing the French. And the fact is, Montreal is full of immigrants. And no matter how much yes, they have to learn French, but no matter how much you francisize them, they're always going to be allophones, like myself included. And I was born here. And for the Quebecois, I'm not really Quebecois. And do I speak English with my friends? Well, my English friends, I do. I mean, you can't turn me into a Quebecois de souche. It's never going to happen. And it's great that they bring in like Haitians and Africans who speak French, but like realistically, they're not speaking French Canadian and they're not Quebecois de souche. They're immigrants. Their children are Quebecois, but it's you know I think they're trying to accomplish something that's it's not really possible. Like I think they want it to be that it's like it's kind of conflicted because in the one hand they need a lot of immigrants and they bring them in, but then the immigrants don't want to stay because they don't really feel welcome and they don't make money easily and they have problems. So then they go to Ontario. And then the government easily brings in French speaking people. Okay, that's great. But then it's like the language laws are so oppressive that it starts to suck. And not only language laws, but even the whole thing about like you can't wear your hijab at work. I mean, is this really going to solve the problem? Like, what are they trying to accomplish? Are they trying to turn immigrants well, me, like a daughter of an immigrant, or like Africans? Are they trying to turn us into Quebecois de souche? It's never going to happen. And like I said before, we always feel like we're never going to be good enough because we're not like real, we're not pur laine, but we are Quebecois because we're from here, we're born here, or we're immigrants. It's kind of a particular situation here. I don't think the solution is being more heavy-handed and listen, because you need solutions at work, okay? The solution of Bill 96, forcing people to speak English at work, I mean, French, when they're all, like you have a couple Anglophones and they're not allowed to speak English in the break room. What do you think is going to happen? What's happening already with the hospitals? They're just leaving. So in the end, François Legault's strategy of imposing like mandatory French speaking between Anglophones in the workplace, it's resulting in job like people just an exodus, especially in the healthcare sector. They can't afford to have that happen. You know what I think would be better? If they had better availability of French language lessons. Like my own son did not successfully learn French, not because I didn't want him to. Um, he would have needed tutoring because of his ASD. He had difficulty learning a second language, and he was in French schools or semi-French. He was moved around, and he had French lessons, but it never really worked. So there you have another person who hasn't been able um, to really learn French. I can't fix this problem. That's because of his autism. I guess it's a kind of particular situation. Aaron was actually born French. Aaron is he's half Quebecois, but when he was adopted, they extinguished his French, and it gave him a problem with learning language because if you interrupt the language development of a child, it undermines their ability to learn a second language. And so he lost his original language, which was French, and he was anglicized, and then he was never able to learn French again. And he gets the treatment like he's Anglo, like, and that's not right. You should be speaking French, but it's totally screwed up because he's actually half French Canadian. And it was anyway, there's a lot of sides to these stories. I mean, in the end, maybe they should invest in having better French language programs for Anglophone students because that's something that I think is missing. Well, Aaron was always kind of like angry that they made him lose his French because his his adoptive grandmother was French Canadian, and he never really understood why his parents only spoke to him in English, and like he wasn't really allowed to speak French. I don't know what happened, but he never was able to learn French again. It totally screwed him up in the language department. But, people have their reasons why they speak English. I mean, and even if you like again, like I said, like you can take us immigrants and children of immigrants and teach us French, but I mean, we're never going to be Québécois de souche, no matter what. It's never going to happen. And I mean, if the Québécois de souche are not having a lot of children, you're not going to have a lot of new Québécois de souche. You're going to have a lot of immigrants. What are you going to do? You know? Um, make us not feel welcome? I mean, I don't think it's a solution, and you can't turn us into something we're not. Which language do I prefer to speak in? Well, I'm more comfortable in English, but you guys know German was my first language. It was surprising to me that speaking German was still like really easy for me. I mean, I don't have all the vocabulary I have in English, but it flows easily and I don't feel like my mouth gets tired. Whereas French, I was educated in French um, for all those years and I have all the vocabulary and I speak French, but when I get tired, I get like it's harder to speak French. So I don't know. The German, I guess, I was really surprised. And I couldn't believe like the words that I was coming up with. I was like, oh, I didn't even know I still knew those words, like all kinds of stuff. But I mean, yeah, English is my main language, obviously, at this point. But I like being multilingual. It's fun. Gunnar enjoys it too. Like when we were traveling in every country, the first few countries, every country we go into, I like they speak the language. And then when we were in England, the staff in the hotel, like the housekeeping staff, they only spoke Spanish, and I was like, oh, I just switch into Spanish and talk to them. I'm hoping it's going to motivate him to learn more languages because he needs to really work hard on his French, or he's never going to get a handle on it. So about living in Europe, I would not want to live in Germany. Um, I would not want to live in Germany. I just didn't feel like it was a culture that I could live in, although it was a really nice place and they have a really good medical system and certain things. But I don't think I could live there, especially not like how they've proven their government to be in the last couple of years. I wouldn't want to live there. I don't think I could live in France, although I thoroughly enjoyed being in France. I thoroughly enjoyed being around French-speaking people. It was great. I love speaking French with them. It's so weird because, like I say, and I keep talking about this, but like over here, I feel like I'm not good enough because I'm not like a really French. But then when I'm there, I feel like French is my other language, and I'm happy to speak French with people, you know? Of course, I was happy to speak German with people too. Um, but it was cool because they didn't peg my accent as Parisian, obviously. They didn't peg it as French Canadian either. They pegged me as like being from like Provence or something. Like they pegged me as like French from somewhere else in France, which I thought was interesting, because over here they'll hear me talk. And at first it's like, you know, I even saw this with tourists over there in Europe. We would meet people from Montreal and I'd be like, oh, hey, you're from Montreal. We're from Montreal too. And then after we're talking for a few minutes, they're like, where are you from? And I'd be like, Montreal. And they're like, just Montreal? Like they're waiting for me to say I'm from Ontario or something. It's like, no, I'm a real Quebecer, a real one. I know I don't have like a very like heavy French Canadian accent, but like, yeah, I'm really a Quebecer, born and raised. Um, yeah, and like you would see that they're kind of like, oh, you're not really. Yeah. But in France, I don't get that treatment because my accent is fine for them. It's a sort of in between accent, um, in between French Canadian and French from France. Oh my God, Italy. Oh my God. Italy was the hardest part of our trip. I think we did Italy wrong because, well, we were just in Rome and it was like I couldn't handle the transportation system. It was the only place where I had this problem. I told you before, but I'll tell you again in case you didn't hear it. It was the only place I couldn't get a handle on it. And it was just so big and it was so much walking. And I don't speak Italian. I can kind of understand it, like somewhat, a little bit, maybe like 25%, like enough that I'm not totally clueless, but I can't speak it at all. Um, so it was the hardest part of our trip. Like it was really hard for me to like organize my day and figure out where we were going to go. We were exhausted. At the end of that. Greece was wonderful. The best food, I think it was Greece. And it was so nice. It was beautiful. And I know we were in a sketchy neighborhood, but it's not like we hung around the neighborhood very much. Like we went to the beach, we went to an island. Were the French people nice? Well, yeah, they were okay. But like the people in the service industry in France, they act like you're taking too long. Like if you ask for something that's a bit like an out of the way request, they're like acting like you're asking for too much. In England, they were super solicitous. I couldn't even believe how polite they were. Oh, let me tell you, we went to the Four Seasons Hotel in in London. Yeah, in London. And I was like, oh my God, they're not even gonna let me in. I look like a hobo. I'm from the colonies. I'm wearing a plaid shirt, you know. And not only did they let us in, but they were like super nice with us and we ended up having tea in there and it was really great. And everywhere we went in England, like yeah, they were very, very nice. Like all the service industry people were just so polite, just amazing. And in France, it was just kind of like take your stuff and get out. It's like we've got a lot of people here, like hurry it up, don't ask for too much. Okay, stop with your special requests. So Italy, believe it or not, the worst food I think we had was in Italy because they have wonderful food, but we couldn't afford it. So we were just like eating like what we could afford, but it was rough because it was so bloody expensive. See, it's expensive in England and France too, but it wasn't a problem because you could easily find stores and get yourself sandwiches like at Waitrose or Sainsbury's or Tesco. France also, they have wonderful like dépanneur kind of stores, like little mini grocery stores. Wonderful food in there, all kinds of sandwiches, pre-made salads, pasta salads, like all this great stuff you can just take and eat in the hotel room. You can get all your food in there. We only went to a restaurant once the entire time we were in France, and we shared a coq monsieur, which we didn't like. One single restaurant. In Rome, we couldn't find that. We couldn't find like stores, sorry guys, stores that had all that. Um, we didn't have that kind of luck in Rome.
Greece, the food was relatively cheap. Like we didn't have any trouble, and the best food ever. It was in this like tiny little restaurant like behind our hotel up in the mountains. Oh my God, it was so cheap. Even in Athens, you could get um like not shish took, but like what do you call it? Like souvlaki sandwiches for like €3 or so cheap, like 2 or 3 euros. So once we discovered that, then we were like, oh, this is cool. We can go and eat here, and that was really good. Croatia, the food was like relatively okay, not too expensive. And Croatia was really beautiful. It was cool, and the people were really nice. Um, French fashion, we weren't even there long enough for me to really notice the fashion. The most fashionable people I think were in Rome. The women were all wearing dresses and like these nice silk type dresses with patterns. I even bought myself a couple things and the price was so good. You know, because we can get cheap clothes here too, but they're not good quality. But over there, um, the quality was really good. And the shoes in Europe are amazing. They're all like super good quality. I kind of regret that I didn't buy myself a pair of boots when I was in Germany, but I was trying not to go overboard. I got a pair of shoes in in Germany that I showed you guys with the flowers, and I got a pair of sandals in Croatia, leather, really good quality. What was it like in Britain with the Queen dying? Well, there were tributes everywhere, and it was sad actually, because it was like they really loved her. So I felt the sadness. They really, really loved their queen, you know. She was like an important part of their country and their culture, and she was very loved, and so it was sad, and yeah, like everybody was out there putting flowers, and yeah, you could really feel it. David Icke wasn't sad. Yeah, well, I mean, you guys, I know all the stuff that they say about the monarchy, and I mean, I know what Prince Philip said. He wanted to be reincarnated as a deadly virus. I remember when he said that years ago. That was her husband. She didn't say it, though. He did. I mean, you couldn't blame me for everything that Aaron does and says. So, I mean, I had never seen her say anything, but everyone else, yeah, there's plenty of scandals, except for maybe William and the Queen. The rest of them, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that goes on. But apparently, like, King Charles is now like giving Andrew and Harry pretty much the boot from like replacing him. I mean, really, all this stuff with Andrew. Pretty scandalous. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she was born into it. She was made queen and she pretty much did her job. And the thing that's remarkable though is that she did it for so long, and even when she was so old, she could have like abdicated and like passed it on. She could have passed it on a long time ago. Kind of makes you wonder like why she insisted on holding that role herself for so long. Sorry about the pixelated streams. Yeah, it was like just really bad quality Wi-Fi. I hope this one's better. Who knows what's gonna happen with Charles now? Hi, Campervan Kevin. Nice to see you. Oh my God, we're gonna have King Charles on the coins. Well, we'll see what happens. I've got my plate full with the Canadian politics. I can't worry too much about the monarchy, you know. Are my sleep habits back to normal? Well, the crazy thing is because when we came back, you know, we're like 6 hours ahead out there, right? So when I came back and I stayed up that night at 10 o'clock, I was ready to just crash out. And I've been going to bed early and getting up at like, I don't know, 6 and trying to go back to sleep for a bit. Getting up at like 7:30, which is good because usually I would get up at like 9 or something. Well, not if Gunnar has to go to school, but I'd get up that early and I'd just be destroyed. And today, okay, I decided to do something. I decided to make a pizza from scratch, which I've never done, and I followed a recipe, And man, it took me all day. I swear. I spent my whole freaking day making this pizza. I didn't think it was going to be such a big production. I have a friend that I watched her do it in like literally a few minutes. But me, I was like, this and that, and like, looking at the recipe and trying to figure it out. And then the problem was I couldn't get the thing to rise. And I had it in the oven because it's so cold in here. I had it in the oven for such a long time, trying to get it to rise like on a low temperature, just trying to heat it up. Finally, I was like, screw it, I'm just gonna make this pizza. It turned out okay, but it wasn't like restaurant quality, but it was okay. But I was just trying to see, I'm trying to use up my ingredients now and stop buying things. Oh my God, I spent so much money. But it was worth it though. Like it was worth it for me to like go. But I'll tell you though, that last week in Europe, you guys would not believe how much money that cost. The trip itself and like the Ryanair flights and all those little flights we took, they weren't that much. And the hotels that we stayed in, Airbnb would have been a lot cheaper, but I didn't want to do it because I'd heard these stories where like you go and then you can't get in your Airbnb, or it's not what you think it is. And I didn't want to risk it with Gunner. So I didn't do Airbnb, but apparently it would have been a lot less. But the hotels we got, I was always looking for the cheapest, and it was kind of an adventure to like get these tiny little hotels and see what we get. And I did it all with Expedia because the cool thing is all your travel stuff is in one app. So like when you booking things, some things I booked separately directly through the hotel, like the one in Greece, I booked it through the hotel because I got a really good price that way. But the problem with that is then it goes to your email, the receipt goes to your email, and then you have to scroll through your emails to like find out, wait, when was I supposed to go? And like whatever, find your reservation numbers. You have to scroll through your emails and for the flights too. So I decided to just like do as much as I could through Expedia because then it's all in one app and it makes it really easy, especially for me who likes to have everything organized visually, just to see, okay, there's the flight, there's a hotel, there's this, there's that, and it's like all really well organized. That I found it was really helpful. I mean, maybe somebody else wouldn't need to do that and they could save a lot of money doing Airbnbs and stuff, but print that stuff out, make a folder. Yeah, but I there were a lot of things that I booked when I was already over there. But yeah, in the past I used to like have papers with me with all my info, but I found that Expedia was good. I was happy with it. Plus you get Expedia points and you get a bit of a discount, and it was okay. It was not bad, using that. But that last week in England, okay? I think in that 1 week, I spent the same amount of money as I spent in Italy, Greece, and Croatia combined. I wasn't planning on staying that extra week. It was because the passport disappeared. I must have spent like $2,000, and that was the only thing on this trip where I was like, oh my God, no. But then I was just like, well, whatever, because I had a plan that when I came back, I was going to pay off some of the stuff and with money that I have, and then I was going to put the rest in a line of credit, because it's a lot less, because I use my credit card. Line of credit is much lower interest. Um, but then it was like this extra $2,000. That was a pain in the ass. I'll be honest with you. Like losing that passport, and because of that, Gunner was like in trouble with his school, and they sent us a registered letter. No, they didn't cover it, because in the end, the passport was lost, but it wasn't permanently lost. It was just misplaced. Well, it flew out of my bag. I don't know how it happened, but I found it the same night. So what was I going to do? Tell them, yeah, I lost my passport, but I found it the same day. Can you pay for my hotel now? I mean, I guess I could try. And then the thing was, because the queen died, like the hotels jacked up their rates because they were all super full. And I just had like 2 nights booked beforehand. Then after the queen died, then I had to book 6 nights, but I accidentally only booked 5. And then they came in and told us like, yeah, you have to check out. And I was like, no, 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 no. We're not leaving today. We're leaving tomorrow. I can't check out now. and they gave me another night. You guys won't believe. Oh my God. It was like over $350 for like the last night, and it was a tiny little room, and I was like, whatever, charge it. I don't even care anymore. Just charge it. I got to sleep somewhere. But the Comfort Inn was so good. Those other hotels on that street, it was really rough because they were so small that it was like stressful, but the Comfort Inn really lived up to its name. It was good. And it wasn't too expensive except for the last night. So where would I live? I could see myself maybe living in England. It's possible. I wouldn't totally rule it out. So I mean, if things get really bad and I want to leave here, I guess I could go there. If I could bring Aaron with me. Or maybe if I'm an old lady one day and I'm by myself, maybe I'll move to England. It was pretty cool. England was great. Oh my God, it's like I feel like it's so much more civilized. Like they have so much more going on, you know? Oh, Thomas, you're still talking about the whole French thing? Um, you sure I talked German and French at home? Well, I spoke German at home until I was about 12. And my aunt says that apparently, my mother said something to me about like, why don't you speak German anymore? And I said, because everybody speaks English or French or whatever. But I was like, nobody speaks German here, so I don't want to speak German anymore. Apparently, that's what happens with children of immigrants when they discover what everyone else is speaking, they just lose interest in their native language. It's more civilized. Well, I meant to say like not civilized as in people behave themselves better. Well, in England they were exceptionally polite. Even the panhandlers though. That's not what I meant though, but on a tangent, even the panhandlers, they'd come up to you, they'd be like, excuse me, I'm so sorry to bother you. Now, I just need 2 quid to get myself a room in a rooming house, and I'm so sorry to trouble you. You know, they like really lay on the apologies. This one girl, she came up to me, she's like, "Hello, I'm Susie. I'm not a junkie." And I said to Gunnar, "Yes, of course, because that's how people who are not junkies always introduce themselves." "Hi, I'm Susie. I'm not a junkie." Okay. And she started telling me all this stuff, and I was like, look, you don't have to explain. Here's your quid. Good luck, you know. I'm Susie, I'm not a junkie. Yeah. Civilized, that just meant in terms of like it was so big and there were so many layers of civilizations there because there was the Roman, there was the medieval stuff, there was the, 1800s Victorian buildings and the 1700s stuff, and then there was all the modern stuff. So it was so built up, and they had a lot of cultural stuff that was, highly developed, like a lot of museums. I had never seen a museum like that. I couldn't even believe when I saw that natural history museum, I was like, this must be an abbey. Because in my mind, the only buildings that were ever that big were churches. I never seen anything like that. It was massive and it was beautiful. It was just like a giant church, you know? I mean, in other countries, buildings that were that big, usually they were churches. But in England, they actually, oh, sorry guys, they actually built a museum that was that big. And the museum, the Imperial War Museum too, they had a very interesting Holocaust gallery. Um, that museum also, like, it was just phenomenal. It was so huge. Mexico, should I retire in Mexico? I don't know, guys. I have to figure out where I'm going to retire to. Mexico, it's possible. Maybe England. I liked all the other countries. I liked Greece. I would go there again for a vacation. It was pretty cool. The small town, though, it's just, it's nice when you're a tourist, but I'm pretty sure if I stay there for a long time, I get bored after a while. And, a place like Athens, like, I don't know, there's lots of places in Greece. It was really exceptionally beautiful. And people were so nice there, and it was pretty affordable. Like, it's not that expensive. Greece was pretty cool. I don't know if they'd have me though. Um, yeah, Mexico is one of my other favorite places. Like I have been to some places in the Caribbean.
Oh, good, Ruth. Yeah, do it, man. It's better to have more than one passport. These vapes? No, it's not expensive. I use the same battery. I just refill the pods. A lot cheaper than when I used to smoke cigarettes, I'll tell you. But I find that like since I have the vape, I'm like vaping it all the time, whereas with cigarettes, I didn't smoke that much. So I don't know. But it's not a lot of nicotine. A translator. Yeah, that's another thing people were telling me because I know so many languages that I could work as a translator. That's possible. Well, I could definitely translate English to French or French to English. I really like Mexico so much. They're really cool down there. I love the culture. It's like so laid back, and it's just unfortunate about all the violence and all the cartel stuff. But other than that, yeah, Mexico. I went to Venezuela once. I didn't really like it. It wasn't, I guess I'm just a Mexico person. Yeah, I don't know. Relaxing and soothing. Yeah, I don't know yet about that. Well, no, that thing about the vapes, like what happened a few years ago. No, what happened was people were vaping cannabis pods from China that contained vitamin E oil, and it was giving them lipoid pneumonia. Like you cannot vape anything that's oil based, or it'll give you a horrible kind of pneumonia. That was one of the things because I investigated that because of course I was concerned because I vape. I was like, oh my God. But it turned out mostly it was cannabis pods and it had something to do with oil. And there were also other people who have some kind of a defect in their lungs that's called apical blebs, a weird name. And those people, they can have like a serious problem with their lung from vaping. But they can also get that problem from sucking in air without the vape, like that. They can also like it's a lung defect basically. So it seemed like it was a bit of both. But I mean, I guess long-term effects, do we know yet? I'm not 100%. Am I in my 50s? Yeah. Feel free to donate to Sonia's plastic surgery fund. Help me get my lip injections since my sugar daddy won't pay for them. The Wim Hof breathing technique. I heard about that. I don't remember what it is. Wait, somebody said, consider teaching online. Yeah, I just don't, there's not enough of me to go around because, like, right now I'm pretty busy. But actually, if I was going to do anything, I'd probably just do more home care because that's what I've been doing forever. And there's tons of work in it now because so many people quit. Face yoga, yeah, I used to do it like a few years ago. I was like really committed. I did a ton of face yoga. It really does work, but you have to keep doing it. And the problem with the face yoga is like when I have something like that I have to remember to do every day, I'm so worried I'm gonna forget, so I like obsess about it. So I'm like, oh yeah, don't forget to do your yoga. Yeah, I do the facial treatments, the LPG, that was pretty good. Well, it seems to keep the wrinkles away. Like I don't have wrinkles. Not really. So that's kind of good. But I mean, we're not gonna stay 25, right? Um, no, I don't use kratom, no. Don't use it anymore. What was the other thing you were asking me about? Oh yeah, t teaching. I did try teaching piano. Why do they keep asking my age? Yeah, I know, right? They're like they just ask me everything, and I just answer, right? I'm like, who cares? Um, oh, thanks. Um, teaching. I tried teaching piano once, and it was a total pain in the ass. I dealing with all these different students. It was like it was just a nuisance. Like people wouldn't show up, or they'd show up, they didn't have the money. It was just, one time somebody asked me to teach their daughter piano, but it was more like I was babysitting, I realized. They were like staying in a hotel and they wanted me to give their kid a piano lesson and they hired me to like come over and they paid me $50 to like basically babysit her for an hour. Anyway, I couldn't live like that. Like Jana does it. She's a professional piano teacher, but she has a whole bunch of students and it's like she's been doing it for a long time and she has a schedule and she has like a full schedule of students, but to get started with that, it was just no, I just couldn't, I don't like that idea of like you're waiting for people, you don't know if they're going to show up, so much pain in the butt. Did I teach Gunnar piano? No, he teaches himself. Like Gunnar is autodidactic. He doesn't do very well learning from like other people. He doesn't really like it.
But he taught himself guitar and he taught himself some piano too. You guys heard him playing the Moonlight Sonata. He's very musical. Now he wants a violin. I was like, I don't have space for it. And no, I just spent all my money on the travel. Was Beverly say seriously? Seriously, are my glasses designer? Yeah, they're, wait, who are they? They're Prada. They're like super old. Beverly, I want to know what you're asking me seriously for. My ex-wife and I, we always argued about money and sex. She was charging too much. Haha. That's pretty good. A violin. Oh, I don't want to get him a violin. Oh my God. He makes so much noise with the guitar already. I like when he plays the guitar and I like when he plays White Zombie, actually. He's good. He's really good on the guitar. He's always trying to play like the most incredibly hard piece. Like he wants a challenge. Oh, vitamin K natto. Yeah, I have in the fridge. I have some of those soybeans natto, but it's like, oh, you got to remember you have to thaw it and then it just, it's just a lot of like mental energy like to there's only so much of you to go around. I mean, sure, there's a whole ton of things you can do, but for your health, but it's like it just takes up too much space in my head. I'm just trying to get the basics done, like get everybody fed and taken care of. Let him play White Zombie online sometimes. Yeah, he's good. What's wrong? What's wrong with what? No, nothing's wrong other than my hip. Hold on. Okay, thanks, Dave. Um, yeah, like so Gunnar is like he's autodidactic. Like he's hard to teach, he's hard to instruct, but he's very smart. And when he's really interested in something, oh, he can teach himself just about anything, you know. And he's really good artist too. When he does art, he's done some portraits of me that it's like, oh my gosh. He's done portraits of people in public too. He just like sat down and started drawing them, and it's like really looks like them. Not like, the way most people draw where it's like it's all really two-dimensional and flat and the proportions wrong. He's like really good. Am I living in a house or it's an apartment? Get him in art classes. Yeah, no, you can't put him in classes. Like, unless he really, really wants to be in the class, he refuses instruction. Like, he doesn't cooperate. I know he looks fine and everything, but he's still autistic. I live in an apartment, Dave. Yeah, I'm still with Barbarian. Yeah, like, you cannot, like, just say, oh, I'm going to teach him this or I'm going to teach him that. Gunnar does, he absolutely does whatever he wants. Like, you cannot decide you're going to teach him this or that. Um, unless he asks you to teach him. He's autistic. He does his own thing, you can't make him do anything. I mean, yesterday we had to go somewhere and like I had to like it took me all day to just coach him and like take a shower and get dressed and like get in the freaking car. I mean, you guys don't see that in the travel videos because I don't show it, but he still needs a lot of coaching. It's better, but yeah, interest-based nervous system. Yeah, I mean, it's just the way he is. But when he's into something, though, he's really, really focused. And he's mostly really focused on music and sometimes art and also Russian language, which he's interested in, and his interest in like military history and war and stuff like that. So it's not like he's, doing nothing. And his interests are different than the average, I think, teenager. And it's funny because his best friend is really into fish. He's also autistic. All his friends are autistic, which I think is great. He's got like a whole group of autistic friends, actually, and it's amazing. Well, he speaks Russian, yeah, kind of, like not fluently, but yeah, he's getting better. I mean, it's slow progress, but he works really hard at it. How are my rabbits? They're all fine. And you know what's crazy? Mo made friends with the white one, with Rosebud, made friends with her. And they had a very strained relationship all these years, a lot of drama. They had babies together, and then everything went south, and they were like at each other's throats. And then while I was gone, they made friends. And where are they now? Are they in here? I'm not sure where they are. But they're like sitting together and like licking each other. Um, he wants to learn what he wants, but very inquisitive to learn. Yeah, Gunnar, it's like when he's interested in something, he's on it. Like he was really obsessed with alphabets for a while, and he'd spend a lot of time like writing out Chinese characters and Greek alphabet and all kinds of stuff. When we went to Greece, it came in handy because he could actually read all those signs. And I had to learn some Greek alphabet so I could figure out where the heck I was. Yeah, he is really into alphabets. So he knows the Greek alphabet now, and he knows Cyrillic alphabet. He can read Russian, and he listens to Russian movies. He listens to Russian music, and pretty much, like I say, like when he's into something, he'll really get into it, and he'll learn a lot. But you can't just say, "Listen, this is what you're gonna do," and show up and like teach him. It's always been like that. I tried to do arts and crafts with him when he was little, and it was like you just can't get him to get on board with what you're doing. He doesn't get on board. It took me all day to make a pizza. Yeah, it's like Anita. Yeah, yeah, it took me all day to make a pizza. And it was a frozen pizza too. Yeah, it was my first time making a pizza dough. Where did Gunner's Russian interest, where did that come from? Well, when we were homeschooling, he was watching this guy called Life of Boris, and so he was just entertained by that, and he was interested in all these things that Boris was showing about life in Russia, and then he was kind of like interested in the clothes and the food, and then that sort of moved to like history and how that related to the war history he already knew. And then at some point, like he got interested in the alphabet and then the language, and he just started studying it on his own for like 2 years. And I got him like a Russian teacher. So let's see what happens, you know? But he's okay. Like when we went out to that carnival, there was a Ukrainian lady who was having some issues with some tickets or something, and I know a little bit of Russian. Like I was able to tell her my son my son speaks Russian. The problem with me is like I knew some Polish, so I get the two mixed up. But like when when Gunner's friend speaks Russian, like I can pretty much tell what he's saying, but it's just basic stuff, you know, because of the Polish. Like I wouldn't be able to say those words to him, but when I hear them, I kind of know what they mean because they're similar to Polish. But Gunnar was able to talk to this Ukrainian woman and explain to her all the stuff. And I was like, oh, that's, that's pretty good. Like I'm just thinking, like, what was the word for speak in Russian? Because I keep thinking of it in Polish, but that's what always happens. I get the Polish words. But anyway, oh yeah, говорит, yeah. So yeah, I told her my son speaks Russian a bit, and he was able to talk to her. So like he's learned something. I think he understands quite a bit. Yeah, he has a really high IQ. It's like 130. It's like super high, higher than mine, that's for sure. Yeah, he's really really smart. Yeah, I hope he can catch up in school because now he like missed like 10 days of school. So today he like had some history lessons and stuff to do, and he's learning about like Canadian government system. That should be interesting. Yeah, he's in high school. He's in grade 10 now. I personally don't care if he fails this year because it's like, so what? So you get an extra year to do more high school, it's not really a big deal. I'm not like in a rush with him because he does things in his own time and he does what he wants. And, he's really different. Like, I can't say, oh, you got to finish your high school on time and go to CJEP and like, get a job somewhere. I don't know if he'd ever make a very good employee. Like he'd be better off going into business or becoming a musician or a comedian or something. But he's got to do what he's really into. I really believe with him, it's a case of like you have to do what you love. Anything else that he's not into, he won't do it well. He missed 10 days, 10 days of school. He's got to catch up. But he did so well. Like last year, he flunked math so badly that in the second half of the year they took him out. They didn't even have him doing math anymore. They were like, oh, it's a write-off. So he didn't even do math in grade 9. Okay, bye, relaxing and soothing. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go soon too. Well, it's probably pretty late. I don't know what time it is, but it's nice to catch up with you guys. Um, yeah, he like didn't do math in grade 9, and then he comes back. No, wait, grade 8. He How was it? Yeah, grade 8. He like totally failed math and he failed French. He did summer school for French. Um, so he basically didn't do math in grade 8. Grade 9, he comes in and got like an 84 average in math. Like there's no problem. Like he learns so fast when he wants to. But you have to just be patient with him. Like I want to do a video at some point where I just tell you like how I managed with him on the trip because you don't see everything. Like I don't show everything in the video, but I had to like work around how he can handle things, you know? So it wasn't just like, most people would just be like, okay, kids, get dressed and we're doing this and we're doing that. It wasn't like that. It was like I had to leave a lot of time for him to warm up in the morning, like get dressed, and I could never rush him, and we could only do like one thing per day. And there were a lot of days where like he wouldn't even leave the hotel or like we just need a complete day off. There's only so much he could take, but he was good about it. Like I could see he really made an effort. He's very cooperative, but he has his limits. There were some days where like he just couldn't. Some days I did things without him. Oh well, thanks, MC. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But yeah, I mean, he's a pretty talented kid, so I think he'll be okay. He'll probably get through the year, and if not, big deal, he does it again. Yeah, I think I'll do a video where I'll tell you about that. I was thinking like I'm not sure how many people really want to know about that because I kind of get the impression that my audience is sort of older, so you probably don't not a lot of you there with like teenagers on the spectrum, and the way YouTube is like they make sure that nobody else will find my videos. So I would really just be doing it for you guys, and I don't know if you can use the information, but I could just put it out there anyway. Yeah, I figure he'll be okay, Mermaid, like you said. He's pretty okay. Anyway, it's been fun talking to you. I'm really happy to be able to catch up with you. I hope you guys are all doing well. This sure took my mind off my hips. They haven't been bothering me at all this whole time. It's so great to be able to see you guys. I love you guys so much. You guys are great. I'm just doing videos for you guys, for real. So, let me know like what you want me to talk about. Oh, Anita hit. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of Anita videos coming, like a whole big saga about, well, I won't tell you now, but yeah, I'm gonna make something good for that. I just didn't feel like editing the last couple days. I was like in horrible pain. Soak in the tub. Yeah, maybe I will. Not a bad idea. Might as well get that kid to bed. No, it's not a broken hip. It's just my hypermobility. It's just like incredibly like insane, all kinds of pain on my left side, my whole hip, my leg. It's like it almost feels like I got tendonitis in my leg. Anyway, it'll get better. Okay, I'll do the Epsom salts. Okay, well, thanks a lot for joining me, you guys. I hope you have a good night. God bless. And I'll see you again soon. Okay, bye.